Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you, and congratulations to Daniel and Palava for putting together such a great event. Like every year, I think it's been a great success, as I can see from the great presence here. Uh, and again, it's good to be with all of you and share our perspective, our thoughts. And I'm sure since morning you've been having a reasonably good packed dose of intellectual stimulation on markets and economy and everything else. I'll probably add my chaos or confusion to it in next 15 minutes or so. Uh, I think, friends, all of you have must heard that India is a great story. Of course, it is true. All of us believe in it. But at the same time, I think there is very big concern. Everybody believes, but that uh, India is one of the most expensive markets. It brings the risk of like what is happening globally. What will be the impact of in U.S. recession? Will it impact on that? Are valuation expensive or not? We have seen historically whenever there is optimism, it disappoints, right? And we could keep on hearing a lot of negatives. So I thought it'll be good to share with you some of the insights which can address these concerns, right? We always believe, at least we believe at Carnelian, that if you understand some of the source of risk and what is being done to address them, then you can really understand and derive comfort around that. You can sort of build your comfort around that. So, can India remain most outperforming emerging market? Can it stand out amongst the global chaos? To understand that, you have to see what are the typical concerns of emerging markets, right? Broadly, most emerging markets, you will find typically three concerns. Broadly, I mean, there are many more, but three broad concerns that, most emerging markets typically will have a weak, governance structure, policy framework, inconsistent framework, poor leadership, whether it is political or, on the policy side. Secondly, you will find most emerging market will have a huge parallel economy, and which always comes in the way of, sustainable growth of any emerging market. And thirdly, you will find most emerging market will be hugely imbalanced. They will have one or other tilt. Either they will be current account deficit, or they will be tilted in form of only exports, or only form of domestic consumption. So there will be huge imbalance in that. And one of these factors keeps on building the volatility, instability to their markets and their performance. And if you just look at that, India has its own share, right? Over last 20, 30, 40 years of history, all of us have been investing into markets. We have had our own share of volatility. We have our own share of, shocks time and again, whether it was 2013, 14, big devaluation in the currency. I think India has had 5 or 6 such big shocks, which has resulted into major loss of wealth for investors, and many more keeps on coming, right? So we feel that this is now structurally set to change. There is a structural reset and repairing happening to some of these 3 points, which consistently, like any other emerging market, impacts India also. And these 2-3 changes which are happening are set to put India out of that vulnerability or volatility of what a typical emerging market would focus. So what are these structural resets, right? Some of them, it's not that today, but some of them have been in works ever since, I think specifically, ever since the new government has in place over the last 8 years. When they were introduced, they were kind of pain and inconvenient, but we are beginning to see results of them. And some of them are being, sort of implemented now, and fruits of that we will see in times to come. So number one, policy reset, according to me, has been our governance and policy framework reset, which is very, very unlike, and this has had a huge amount of change over the last 7-8 years. What are these things in this? What are big changes which are there, structurally happening? And this is, see, the reason why I'm talking at a cultural level, at a structural level, if you talk a particular item, you will say, you will reduce your big point to the small point. But if you know the underlying philosophy of the, you can just generalize it. So in our current political framework, current governance framework, policy framework, these are very obvious things. Speed of execution has changed drastically. Earlier, if there was a 10-year time to execute anything, today it is maybe 2 or 3 years, whether it is Jan Dhan account, whether it is power to all, whether it is any infrastructure project, everywhere there is a speed of execution. Sense of urgency is there in the entire policy and governance framework. Secondly, you know, anything which we are doing, there is a digital layer to it, digital code to it. You know, India has leapfrogged many layers in between as compared to developed markets. And you will be surprised, I think, many, things which India has, even no country in the world can afford to have. I give this example that I was in a, village in my native place with a small population, and I went there to a small PCO kind of center called eMitra, and I could swipe my finger and withdraw cash from my ICICI bank account. This kind of digital penetration has happened in this country. This no other country has in the world. So I think India has built that and continues to build upon that, and that's a very big change. Historically, I think social capitalism, we always believe that either you can be socialist or you can be capitalist. They both can coexist in a progressive manner. It has never been, in my opinion, tried and tested in this way. Good for people, welfare of people is very core. At the same time, focusing on building businesses, structurally long-term businesses, supporting businesses, again, is equally sort of given weightage to. We are in a situation where you must have heard political narrative that Maharashtra government opposition is sort of attacking the government for letting project go of Sterlite to Gujarat. This kind of political narrative is very good. Every state is trying to vying to get investments to this. This is a very big change. I mean, when the politicians start talking about business kyun chale gaya, this is a very big change. This is good for business. So one side you have a social welfare environment, other side you have a business environment. And this is a very positive sign. First principle thinking. I think historically India always, whatever solution problem we had, we copied, aped West, saying wahan aisa hota to yahan pe karenge. That is no more the case. India finds solution to India's problem in Indian way. Post-COVID, I think there was a huge pressure on the government to come out with a big bang proposal, but we did not come out, right? Big bang, just like West, solution, but we did not come out. We did our what package we had to give to our India, and today everybody is appreciating that. So a lot of these things are happening. Our foreign policy, right? Today we have non-aligned foreign policy. We could import oil from Russia without any, despite pressure from everywhere else, and saving Indian population from the hyperinflation, which entire European countries could not do. Why? Because we have a very strong, decisive leadership and a strong policy framework. So some of these things are, according to me, all going into towards nation building. And this cultural change is a very big shift. And according to me, once this kind of cultural shift happens, this lasts very long, and it becomes part of the DNA of the whole nation. And this is a very big change. This is unlikely to go away for 1 quarter, 2 quarter, anything go. This lasts many decades. And this is what makes me very excited. Second big change, again, is the formalization of economy. Now, it all started with the demonetization, as we know, which all of us have kind of, or many of us didn't even like it. It started with demonetization. Then, we had GST implementation, again, was very inconvenient. And then after that, many more direct tax. Government has reduced direct tax and increased tax collections. I mean, we collect more tax than before 2018. This year, government has exceeded their own target by 30%, as you would be reading. What is it telling you? That we had 53% parallel economy in 2018, which according to various estimates is now 15-20%. What is it telling you? That we have been able to formalize economy. Now it started in 2015-16 and is building on. This is a very big thing because it brings productivity, it brings efficiency, and then thereby promotes lots of investments and research related investments. So all those things are very essential for and this reset is a very important reset according to me. Third one, again, it's a every time India kind of country, India including India or most emerging market, faces vulnerability from whenever our current account deficit goes through. If you remember, in 2014, we depreciated our currency by 20%, and entire economy went for a toss because we had current account deficit of 80 billion, 4% of the GDP. Why does that happen? Because our manufacturing GDP is very low. We import most of our goods. We import most of our energy. This is set to change. COVID has brought this very big change, right? India's Atmanirbhar Bharat program is a very big structural change which will transform this nation beyond our imagination. Today, we can't even think what it can do. Or today, I mean, we will realize real benefit of this 5-7 years down the line. And I'll try to explain this in a little bit more detail. If you see, Our manufacturing GDP is only 15-16% of GDP, but of a country of 130 billion people, 1.3 billion people, we cannot have our consumption need met by imports, right? Some point in time, it will always become unbearable, or we will be held to ransom by people who sell us. I mean, China does not need to fight war with you on the border. They can stop supply of your APIs, your entire healthcare system can come down, right? So those kind of vulnerability was there, and government realized, and I think massive program has been unleashed by the government to make our manufacturing GDP from 15% to 25%. It might take 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, doesn't matter. Our manufacturing GDP will set to become three times from where it is today. Almost from $450 billion to $1.25 trillion. This is a very massive change which can happen and government is doing everything what is in control to, PLI is only one of things. There are many initiatives, I mean, for want of time, I won't go into each of them, but many initiatives where government is doing that. Secondly, India's cost competitiveness has improved. Our labor cost is $200, China's labor cost is $800. 1/4 of China. So we are anyway competitive on many counts vis-a-vis China. Of course, we need to build scale, size, which is now happening with the change of the mindset. Right? Today, Apple, Samsung, they are setting up global scale capacities in India. Why? Because it's a large domestic market and can cater to the exports also. So this is a very, very big change which is happening in India because of China Plus One, government's Atmanirbhar Bharat program, and we will see benefit of this in a big way. Just think about it. When we have this GDP of $450 billion going to $1 trillion, even doubling, $500 billion we will add to the GDP. In manufacturing, 10% is a salary. So we will add $50 billion of salaries into the economy over the next 5 years. To give you a sense, Manrega, which was a very big demand booster, when it was introduced in 2009, the annual allocation of Manrega has been only $10 billion. So manufacturing alone is getting you 5 times of Manrega. That kind of multiplier effect can happen in the economy. You will also have impact on the current account deficit, and I'll come to this in a minute when I explain the point a little bit more. But so that will have in manufacturing boost the investment cycle. So this is a very, very big game-changing reset which is happening in India's history. Benefit of this we will see only 3, 4, 5 years down the line. How we are seeing benefit of GST today, and that's a very big change. Second big change post-pandemic happened was our IT industry, which was growing at 3-4%. IT industry, we've been 90% market share, was growing at 3-4%. Now it is growing at almost 12-13%. Our IT is set to grow from $165-170 billion of exports to about $350 billion of exports. So almost doubling our IT exports over the next 4 or 5 years. Now imagine, in IT, 50% is the salary. So 50% of $175 billion, you will have 70-80 incrementally, $70-80 billion being spent on salaries from IT. Another 7 to 8 times of Manrega. So manufacturing and IT put together will have 9, 10, 11 times of Manrega coming into economy as a salary. This is a very big change that's happening. So these two factors put together will again propel India's economic growth. Now another impact which I wanted to say that India's vulnerability, which I started with, that comes from the current account deficit. Our current account deficit, depending on time to time, but is ranges between $60 to $90 billion or $100 billion. Now over 5-year period, we will earn about $175 billion from incremental IT revenue, and because of less import and more export, about $100 billion from manufacturing. We will save $100 billion from manufacturing data. So roughly $250 billion kind of impact on our current account deficit versus our current account deficit of 80. So deficit of 80 versus delta of $250 billion. So we will turn into a current account surplus country. And India, once current account surplus comes, we are not dependent on capital flows from anywhere. Hence, vulnerability reduces. So our vulnerability always comes from when we need capital from elsewhere. Today, we don't need, once we get to current account surplus, we don't need capital from others. Only 4 countries in last 40 years have gone through this journey. Japan, China, Korea, Taiwan. After they moved from current account deficit to surplus, they had a great golden period of 7 to 8 years, 10 years of prosperity. So this is the kind of journey ahead of us because of these structural many resets happening. So I see, frankly, all these resets are creating a massive opportunity for India. And these are the some big mega trends which are emerging because of these resets. Of course, technology, I spoke that technology from IT services perspective, but also technology from the perspective of new age technology companies are coming, which will disrupt many of the existing industry, but they will be far more efficiency improvers. So technology is a very big trend. Manufacturing, I spoke that it's a massive trend. Probably where IT was in mid 90s, we are seeing manufacturing right now. So you have next 1-2 decades of manufacturing boom. Banking, of course, the kind of digital stack we have, our banking system is well provided, well capitalized, ready to grow, and no nation, no country can grow significantly without having a massive growth in the banking. That will continue. Consumption, our per capita income is going up from close to 2,000 to 3,500, 4,000 over a period of time. And as that goes up, our discretionary spending will go up, and so the consumption. We are a young society, so that's a very massive, big trend. Infrastructure, as we know, that massive spend is happening across ports, roads, railways, airports, everywhere, I think, and that's one big thing which is going to be very important, and there will be sort of opportunities. And real estate, largely, but if I were between all these 6 also, if I were to choose, first 3, I think, in my opinion, will be our top priority, where you will see far bigger wealth creation than any of. So yeah, all this will lead to sustainable growth. Of course, India will, according to me, India will further get re-rated. So it won't remain. It's saying that India is expensive, according to me, is not appropriate. We will, of course, have less volatility as our reset starts playing out, as our current account deficit becomes surplus, as we become a more balanced economy, and that will, of course, lead to a massive wealth creation cycle. So I personally feel that as our GDP marches towards $5 trillion, we will have market cap of anywhere between $6 to $8 trillion, which is over, depending on what valuation cycle you are, what liquidity cycle you are. But broadly, you will see set your market cap can double from here very easily over next 4-5 year period cycle. Banking, of course, like I said, would be probably closer to $1 trillion kind of market cap. There will be, according to us, there will be at least 10 $100 billion companies in this country, or $10 billion companies in this country. So size and scale of companies will change. Size and scale of opportunity will be there. And we always believe at Carnelian that big monies are made when you get your large trends right, and you bet money on the right in the right sector, right trends, and in good quality companies. That's what we do, in terms for our living. And we see a massive wealth creation cycle ahead of us. And I'm sure all of you have experienced this here and do experience every. Generally, only word of caution I'll say. Generally speaking, there's a lot of negativity which goes around. Specifically, I have seen in India that reduces our confidence many times, because we are unable to sort of comprehend many times the big picture. Those small negativities kind of impacts us. So with that, I wish all of you a great wealth creation cycle ahead of us. And thank you very much.